Charles Kuralt had a knack for reminding America of its human side. The CBS newsman died Friday in New York, but left his road trip tales as a legacy.
What if the man who taught America to see beauty in simplicity was hiding the most complicated secret of all? Charles Kuralt, the warm voice of CBS News, showed us the kindness of strangers and the soul of small towns, but behind that gentle smile lay a double life no one could imagine. A secret love, a hidden home, and a story that would shock the nation after his death. Stay with us because this is where America's favorite storyteller becomes the story himself. His family moved often first to Washington, North Carolina, then Stedman, then Atlanta, and finally Charlotte in the 1940s, where his father, Wallace Kuralt, became head of the county's social services department. In every town, Charles found something new, but one passion stayed constant: the magic of voices on the radio. By the age of 14, he was already an announcer for Waze Radio in Charlotte, calling minor league baseball games and hosting a music show. That same year, he won a local writing contest for a sports story about a dog interrupting a baseball game, proving early that he could turn simple moments into unforgettable tales. At Alexander Graham Junior High, his teacher in Baton introduced him to journalism. Charles wrote a column called The Kaleidoscope for the school paper. In 1948, still just 14, he entered the Voice of Democracy contest and won the national prize. He received a $500 scholarship, traveled to Washington, D.C., met President Harry S. Truman at the White House, and gave a speech at Colonial Williamsburg on the same spot where Patrick Henry had once cried, "If this be treason, make the most of it." That speech revealed the confident, humble voice that America would come to love. After high school, Kuralt attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, majoring in history while working for radio stations like WCHL and WUNC. He produced sports broadcasts, radio documentaries, and editorials with a depth that far surpassed his age. In 1953, at only 19, he returned to Waze Radio in Charlotte as a professional announcer. His voice was calm, conversational, and deeply human, an early glimpse of the charm that would later captivate television audiences. By 1954, Kuralt had become editor of the Daily Tar Heel, the university newspaper, where he fearlessly wrote editorials criticizing racial segregation. He mocked authority with wit and honesty, even when it made him unpopular. After graduating in 1955, he turned down law school to pursue journalism full-time. 2 years later, at just 23, CBS News hired him as the youngest correspondent in its history. In 1959, Charles Kuralt joined the team in New York City, working under his hero Edward R. Murrow. Within 2 years, he was hosting Eyewitness to History, covering the historic Kennedy-Nixon debates watched by 77 million Americans. His calm delivery earned him national praise from Variety magazine, which called him poised and trustworthy. In 1961, he became CBS's chief Latin American correspondent, covering revolutions and political upheaval across 23 countries, including the Cuban Missile Crisis. He witnessed riots, gunfire, and danger, but never lost his sense of humanity. During the 1960s, Kuralt reported from Vietnam, where he saw soldiers die beside him. He filmed the Christmas special Christmas in Vietnam, capturing the heartbreak of war. He also covered the civil rights marches in Selma, Alabama, where his quiet interviews allowed ordinary people to share powerful truths. But by 1967, after years of chaos and conflict, he was tired of competing for breaking news. He wanted to tell stories that showed life's beauty instead of its violence. He pitched an idea to CBS: no assignments, no scripts, just 3 months on the road to see what I can see. The network laughed but eventually agreed. That fall, with cameraman Isadore Bleckman, he rented a small motor home and hit the highways of America. The fridge held only beer, soda, and peanut butter sandwiches. They chose towns at random and started driving. What began as a 3-month experiment became one of television's greatest achievements on the road with Charles Kuralt. The first segment aired on October 27, 1967, about George and June Butler, a couple in Jacksonville, Vermont. Who made maple syrup? George said, "You can get color and sound, but not smell. The aroma's the best part." That line captured everything Kuralt stood for: honesty, simplicity, and heart. Viewers were instantly hooked. Over the next 25 years, On the Road traveled more than 1 million miles through 48 states, telling stories of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things. A 99-year-old bricklayer in Iowa, a 104-year-old jogger, a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse in Montana named Ira Perkins, who taught for 53 years. While other news shows focused on violence and scandal, Kuralt focused on kindness and perseverance. Time magazine called his reports 2-minute ceasefires in a world full of chaos. In 1975, he earned his second Peabody Award and became known as America's bicentennial historian. He celebrated small-town heroes and forgotten communities, capturing the pioneer spirit that built the nation. In 1979, he became the first host of CBS Sunday Morning, blending news, art, and nature into something uniquely peaceful. His soft introductions and closing reflections became part of American mornings. One of his most memorable lines came from a report filmed in Cobscook Bay, Maine, about the decline of bald eagles. Standing in the cold, he said, "Someday, if you're lucky, you'll look up and see an eagle on the wing. It's a sight to stop your heart." That poetic voice made him not just a journalist, but a national treasure. Under his leadership, Sunday Morning won multiple Peabody Awards and reached over 6 million viewers. But while Charles Kuralt was celebrated for his honesty and warmth, his private life was something else entirely. On June 1, 1962, he married Suzanne Petty Baird at New York City Hall. She was a lawyer, and together they built a respectable life on Manhattan's Upper East Side. But in 1968, while filming in Reno, Nevada, Kuralt met Patricia Shannon, a divorced mother of 3 active in community work. They talked through the night, and from that moment, their secret affair began. By 1969, he was sending her money, eventually more than $600,000, the equivalent of over $4 million today. He helped her start a landscaping business, paid for her children's college tuition, and bought property for her in Colorado, San Francisco, and even Ireland. Most importantly, he bought 90 acres of land in Montana, near the Big Hole River, their private retreat. To his wife, he called it a fishing cabin. In truth, it was a second home where he lived with Patricia for parts of every year. Patricia's children called him Pop. He taught them to drive, took them fishing, sent them gifts, and wrote them letters. He visited every few weeks, even during the busiest years of his career. On CBS, he was the face of decency and family values. Off-screen, he was maintaining 2 lives, 2 families, and 2 identities. In June 1997, while suffering from lupus in a New York hospital, Kuralt wrote a final letter to Patricia Shannon. "I'll have the lawyer visit the hospital to be sure you inherit the rest of the place in Montana. If it comes to that," he wrote. 16 days later, on July 4, 1997, Charles Kuralt died at age 62. America mourned its storyteller on Independence Day, unaware of the scandal about to unfold. At his funeral, Patricia Shannon arrived holding that letter. His wife, Patty, had no idea her husband had another family. The letter revealed that he had secretly transferred property and money to Patricia. The discovery led to a fierce legal battle between Patricia and Kuralt's daughters. From his first marriage, in 2000, the Montana Supreme Court ruled in Patricia's favor, granting her the land. Kuralt's legal family was left heartbroken and stunned. Then, in 2002, Patricia Shannon released her memoir, Charles and Me, exposing the full truth: the poems he wrote her, the vacations they shared, and the decades of lies he told to keep both worlds apart. The revelation shattered the image of the man who had once been called America's most trusted storyteller. Yet even in scandal, the complexity of Charles Kuralt's life didn't erase what he gave to journalism. He reminded America that small stories mattered, that life's meaning often lived in backroads and ordinary hearts. His work on the Road and CBS Sunday Morning remains a tribute to human kindness, even as his personal story stands as a warning about the cost of secrets. He once said, The everyday kindness of the back roads more than makes up for the greed in the headlines. Charles Kuralt reminded us that true beauty lies in ordinary people, not fame or fortune. His stories captured America's heart, and his legacy lives on. Brilliant, flawed, and deeply human, he was America's story. Thanks for watching and honoring his journey.